In this movie, we'll take a look at timers and interframe events and how we can use them in order to animate. So first I will need something to animate, so I will create a simple shape, going to be a circle, double click on it to select both the fill and the stroke, and hit F8 to convert it to a symbol. Click OK, and I will create a new layer called Actions. Click on the first frame of my layer and then hit F9 to open up my Actions panel. First I will start off by defining timers. Now what a timer is basically it's another variable, so we can declare it just like we declared every other variable. Write var, call it my timer. It's of type timer with a capital T. Set it equal to a new timer, just like we did with our arrays. And then I'm going to add an event listener to my timer. So I write my timer dot add event with a capital E, listener with a capital L, and then open parentheses, then the event type that we're waiting for here, and the event type will be a timer event with a capital T, timer capital T, event capital E, dot timer all uppercase, and then comma, then the name of the function that will be executed whenever this event happens. I'll call this function animate, and semicolon to end your statement. Then define the function animate, so function animate, and then the event variable goes within this set of parentheses, because again this function is being triggered by an event, so we need to define an event variable. So type E colon and the type of the event, which is a timer event, timer with a capital T, event with a capital E, then close parentheses, colon void, because again this function is not returning any value, and then a set of curly braces. In here I want to, whenever this function is being executed, I want to add 5 pixels to the x coordinate of my circle. So type circle dot x plus equals 5, and then semicolon to end your statement. And finally, last but not least, I will add 50 to the set of empty parentheses of my timer. Now let me explain what's going on here. Basically, the event listener here is waiting for my timer, which runs every 50 milliseconds. So every 50 milliseconds the function animate will be executed, so every 50 milliseconds 5 pixels will be added to the circle's x coordinates. This is basically how timers work. So if I test my movie by pressing Ctrl Enter, I see that I have an axis of undefined property circle. Oops, sorry about that. I forgot to add an instance name for this circle. So go to properties and I'll name it circle. This is what I have been referring to in my action when I said circle here. So again, let's test our movie, and we see that nothing happens. That's because the timer is now set and the function is all set, but the timer hasn't started yet. In order for the timer to start, I need to write my timer dot start, and a set of empty parentheses, and then a semicolon. Now if I test my movie again, I'll see that the circle start moving to the right. So let's say if I said dot y plus equals 5 and then test my movie, I'll see that the circle goes downwards. That's because as the y coordinates increases, the object goes downwards, and as it decreases, it goes upwards. So if I said dot y minus equals 5, oops, sorry about that, Control Enter, we'll see that the circle will start moving upwards. And if I wanted the animation to look a little bit smoother, I can simply reduce the number of pixels being added or subtracted from the circle's X or Y coordinates, or I can simply make this timer run more frequently. So if I said 20, then every 20 milliseconds the circle's X or Y coordinates is being updated. So now we can see that the motion is a lot smoother. But be careful, because too much timers and too much update rates could really require a lot of processing power, so I wouldn't go too wild with this. And whenever I want my timer to stop, I can simply write my timer dot stop. Simple as that. But now the timer will start then stop instantaneously, so nothing will happen. So instead I will add an event listener to the circle. So write circle dot add event listener. It's going to be a mouse event dot mouse underscore over. Again, that means that when I hover over the circle with my mouse, I'm going to start a function called start move. And again, I will add an event listener to stop the motion of the circle. So I'll copy this, go to the next line, and then the mouse underscore out instead of over. That's what happens when you move your cursor away from the circle. And then the function will be called stop move. Now I'll define a function start move. The event variable is going to be a mouse event. So e colon mouse event colon void, and then a set of braces. And within here I will write my timer dot start. So copy this and paste it here, and copy this function, paste it to save some typing, and then stop move. Again, all same here, my timer dot stop. Okay, all seems good, but I will change this to the X and plus equals 5. Control enter, that's our movie, and then whenever I hover over my circle, it will start to move, and when I hover away from it, it stops moving. Again, start, stop, just as basic as that. Now we'll take a look at Enterframe events. So I'll comment this piece of code. We don't need it anymore. Just so we could take a look at Enterframe events. An Enterframe event is very similar to a timer, except with one difference. First, the Enterframe event depends on the frame rate of your timeline. That is, unlike a timer, which you can define how many times it runs per second, the Enterframe event is pretty much locked to the frame rate of your timeline. So if I now add an Enterframe event to my circle, it's going to run 24 times per second, because that's the current frame rate of my timeline. And Enterframe events don't need to be defined as variables. So to show you, I'm going to open up my actions panel, and straight away I'll write circle dot add event listener. Oops, sorry about that. Listener with this lowercase I. I'm going to be an event with a capital E. Event dot enter all uppercase, underscore frame, again all uppercase, comma, and the function again will be called animate. And now we define the function animate. So function animate, and now the event variable, so e colon event, and then a set of braces and circle dot x plus equals 5, semicolon to end your statement. And unlike a timer, an interframe event can't be started or stopped, so there's no need for interframe event dot stop or interframe event dot start. It immediately runs. So if I test my movie, we see that the circle starts animating immediately. And if I wanted the motion of the circle to be a little bit more smoother, I can simply adjust the frame rate of my timeline by, let's say, make it around 60. But now my circle is going to move a lot faster because 5 pixels is being added to its x coordinates 50 times per second. So I will reduce the amount of pixels being added to its x coordinates and make it, let's say, 2, and then control enter. And I can see that the motion is really smooth. So hopefully that puts you on the track to understanding what are timers and what are interframe events.